What's up, flooring pros? Welcome to the huddle. We come at you every week, every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central, to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. This week with me, as always, Mr. Daniel and Jose Gonzalez out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
What's up?
What's up, guys?
What's up? Beer City, USA.
So we got another individual going to be joining us, and we'll see when he chimes in here. But this week's huddle is really about the stress level that many installers have to go through, whether it's, stress on finances, stress on project completion is a big one, like getting your work done. How you deal with that stress, how you deal with, I think it's, how do you deal with complicated people on job sites like other trades and your general contractor or your builder? If you're working in homes, how do you deal with the homeowner and the stress level of that? So any of these are going to, put you in a state of possibly reacting in a manner that you do not want to react. And so I think it's cool to kind of discuss this. What do you guys do when you're kind of fighting against, sorry, I'm getting some feedback.
Yeah, I know it's my fault.
Oh, no problem.
I'm sharing it on my phone because it's easier than doing it on the computer, and then sometimes the audio just likes to play for no reason.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah.
I was trying to listen to both conversations. I was confused.
So, when you're dealing with these things, one of the things that I would like to ask you guys is, what's your stress management mechanism? Now, I know that sounds fancy, but I mean, like, what do you do when you have a builder or a general contractor or a homeowner that has maybe unrealistic expectations, or maybe you've made a promise, it didn't quite come through. You know how this stuff works, right?
Yeah.
You think you're going to get done with the cafeteria by 2:00 on Tuesday, and you're not done until Thursday. Different things get in the way, but that stress can be almost debilitating sometimes. So what do you guys do about, dealing with these stressors and kind of, maybe moving forward? Because you guys have been successful. You've obviously done that and manage this in a manner that keeps you up. What's up, Eduardo?
Eduardo.
Sorry, I interrupted your thought. Keep going.
Okay, so the question, and I'll restate it so that you can chime in here too. We have many stressors as installation professionals out in the field. And what do you do what's your way of dealing with really complicated people that, like, whether it's project schedule or, something else? Many times you can be just a sounding board or maybe not even that, like a one of them punch dummies for a superintendent on a job site or something. So, a lot of this is a day-by-day thing. How do you deal with it?
And I'll go ahead and start with that because I'm gonna be very political about it. I'll just let everybody know that everyone's gonna approach this differently, right? But sometimes you got to be the one under the stress. Sometimes you got to be the mediator. I've been on both sides, probably more often than not on both sides, and I think everybody has. But I guess it all depends on the situation. And I think what's been nice for us, and I'm pulling over here, guys, so that way I can concentrate on this and not worry about the traffic. But
good idea.
Understanding your audience, I guess, so to speak, right? Like, is one way that I've always approached it. I've always tried to put myself in someone else's shoes and try to understand exactly what they're going through, so that way I know how to react. Because when I was younger, I was very reactive to the situation. instead of being proactive. I was very reactive. I waited till something went wrong, and then I just reacted. Whether it was accordingly or not, it all depends on what side of the coin you're on. But uh, that comes with people skills. The longer you're in it, the more you're doing it, the more situations you become familiar with, and you understand how to, I don't want to say weave your way in and out of it, but you start understanding people more and start understanding situations, and you start putting yourself in a position you can read people more. But the stress part of it, when it gets put on you, you're going to be reactive, or you're going to take a breath and say, okay, one step at a time, one word at a time, one scenario at a time. And I've tried to do that for a very long time. Does it always work? Nope, not at all, because they have something going on at home. I have something going on at home, or at work or on another job site. And it's hard to create divide through some of that. But I this is a hard conversation to have, because there is no right and wrong answer, right? There is no exact path for anyone to say this
Yeah,
is
I
how I
mean,
handle
that's
the
kind of the
stress.
nature of
Yeah,
having humans interacting with humans.
man.
There's not a silver bullet to each one. What's your take, Eduardo? And then we'll jump over to Daniel.
Okay, so those who personally know me, I'm kind of stoic. So like a lot of the time it looks like I'm in a good mood no matter what's going on. I have that Hakuna Matata mentality. It is what it is. I can correct my mistakes, but I can't correct inaction. So a lot of times it's just communication, like Jose said, and it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice because I thought I had a problem, but it just turns out I had no social skills. So I've been working on it. I've been tying adults, and I've been improving a lot on it. But people love that when they don't just like, oh, thank God. People like it when you admit that you made a mistake and you're like, okay, I'm willing to correct it,
Yes.
and it's better that we take action now instead of avoiding it. People hate it when you avoid it, and all of a sudden it pops up and it costs them $1 million. So,
Yeah.
communication and practice.
And accountability. You made a great point there too. Like, if you hold yourself accountable, it makes it easier when you're the one bringing on the stress, right? And you're at the cause of it, instead of stressing yourself out and saying, "Oh, I got to hurry up and fix this. I got to hide this, or I can't say this." Holding yourself accountable and bringing it up to the front of the class, so to speak, will help bring solutions a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, admitting fault a lot of times is a really good way of disarming the other person. Like, how much do you want to beat me up? Right? You got to go past just like the other. Like, if you're dealing with a difficult foreman on a job site, when you admit you made a mistake, now where do we go from here? It like disarms the conversation. Now they have to want to be a real prick to just keep on harping on the problem. And a lot of times the best response is like, I get it, man. I've admitted I was supposed to be here Saturday, whatever the problem, right? But I was supposed to be here Saturday. Things came up. I let you know about it. But at the end of the day, we are where we're at. What do I need to do to move this, move this situation forward? So that's a great deal. How about you, Daniel? What's your input here?
Communication with everything. Like especially first starting out, you don't like to talk to people. At least I didn't. Still kind of don't like to talk to people, but it comes with
You don't like talk to people when you're on a podcast every week. Whatever.
I know, right?
Dude, this is a real story. Let's listen to what he has to say.
So you just don't like talking to people, and you just like try and tiptoe around things, and then people get angry, and it's just sometimes you're the person that's getting angry, and it's just communicating. This is the way I feel. This is what has to be done, and stuff like that. It's a majority of the time the stresses that I'm thinking about on the job sites were scheduling and us getting in there and people being in the way and all this stuff, right? And the only way that they can know about the things that are going on is for us to be like, hey, you guys want us to do it like this, that's going to take twice as long. This is why I have to do it this way. And, you know, before I didn't approach it like that. I was just like, nope, I'm not doing it your way. This is the way I'm going to do it. Don't care. And, you know, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And then you get to a point, especially working with the same people over and over again. It's like, look, man, like if I don't get this area at the same time, it's not going to get done when you want it done. So just communication all around.
So, I heard communication, you're dealing with people. So admitting mistakes. There's an undertone of first principles here. So if you can just get it back to like, okay, here's why I need to do it, because they always want to get their job done. And so you're taking it back to like, we can mull this over or fight about this, but what are we going to do from here to move it forward? Or in your example there, Daniel, when you're communicating with them and they may not like that result, the end of the day, look, I'm just trying to get your job done in the most efficient manner and make your client happy to make you happy with me. At the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do here. So, because a lot of dealing with the attitudes and complicated people is about getting them. Always remember, this is what I always think of is like, what do I want out of this situation? Like, that's not a selfish thing. What do I want out of this? I want to get the job done, or I want to get through this weekend, whatever the goal is. Remember your goal and always be aiming at that, and then manage your state. Manage your state is, I talked about this in a previous podcast, but one of my mentors, Ed Milet, talks about this a lot. When you're in a certain state, mental state is what he's talking about. You're angry, or you're upset about something, or you've had a bad day and you're not necessarily angry, but you're depressed or whatever. We all have these human emotions. Managing those states when you're in a complicated situation, the best way to do that is remember the goal of that conversation. If you're dealing with you're behind, they're pressing you to work the weekend, but you don't want to work the weekend, remember your goal. If it's to get the job done and you still think you can get it done without the weekend, then you can focus on the right piece of communication between you two, if that makes any sense. So you're not going down rabbit holes and getting this he said, she said, or pointing fingers thing. You're just working on solutions. That's kind of the goal, is when you're
Solutions. There you go.
Yeah, when you're thinking of your goals, you're just thinking of, how do I provide solutions to get through this situation? That's what I think of a lot. And of course, your guys' comments are great. I mean, communication is key in that.
I have
But
one.
managing the stress before it happens can help out too, right? Like just understanding the process and understanding, like what Daniel said, communication. If you at the beginning of the project, beginning of anything, you're communicating up front, what you're doing is you're alleviating the potential stress that could happen. Now, some of it you have to adjust to on the fly. You got to adjust right away.
Yeah, we call that
as it
expectation
comes.
management.
Yeah,
Managing the
some of-
expectations.
Yeah, some of that you're never going to be 100% stress free out of anything, right? Like it could be something super simple, but it causes stress on somebody. But being at the forefront, being very honest and saying, this is the scenario, this is where I'm at, these are my steps through this process, and if something happens between one of those steps, it can throw me off and throw your schedule off, and that does. Great communication up front relieves a lot of stress on the back end.
Yeah, what's your thoughts there, Eduardo?
So I went to win-win. I always think about that. Like that was the fundamentals that I'm thinking about when it comes to any kind of project. Like you were like, yeah, I'm gonna take the weekend off, and then the person's like, well, I'm gonna lose my job by Monday if it's not done. So like that's not a win-win. But maybe he can take you out to eat and buy you some tools or something, try and bribe you up. But a lot of my perspective on it is, it's just stress. Stress is good, but it's it's just such a big causer of like health issues. Like there's like 70, 80% of health issues are caused by stress. So, stress is worrying about what you cannot control at that moment or what you cannot change at that moment. So it's very important that you do manage it somehow because you don't want to end up getting sick. People who are stressed out a lot get sick a lot. They get heart disease, especially us men. We end up
Yep.
getting heart disease and strokes. And so I'm not gonna live forever, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Carry some Tylenol for the headaches.
So
Mario Fernandez says, there's never a problem, only a challenge.
well,
There's
I
never
think
never
if
problems,
we're
only
managing
solutions.
it, if we're managing expectations correctly, like has kind of been a theme here, and then like Eduardo said, the stress is there's a reason it's called stress management. It's because it's always present. There's some level of it. I adopted 3 kids not too long ago. That's plenty of stress to manage. You know what I mean? The 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 point here is that you do have to manage it. And sometimes that's about expectation. The other part is, like you said, coming across with solutions to the problem. And I love the win-win because, like you said, the store wants you to, maybe the dealer you're working with or the contractor, the flooring company you're working with need you to work the weekend. You don't want to. That's not a win-win. How do you create a win-win? Well, multiple times I've, given gift cards or enticed a subcontractor to work through the weekend to get something done. And then that seems to alleviate a little bit of stress. If the reward's high enough, sometimes the stress can go away. So for flooring companies out there, there's a lot of, one thing I don't believe in is the office never working a weekend and then always requiring the field to work the weekends. Like that's not how we operate. I can tell you that. Like we have guys, you can go to my office any given weekend and catch 2 or 3 cars out there, managers working the job with the crew, not on the job site, but getting them materials or making sure that they're taken care of or being there for when they have questions. There's just, you can't have that separation. I believe installers and office are equal. We're all human. It's not like someone's above. So I know you guys feel the same way as well.
Yeah, I have a hard time going home after I'm like my day is done when we have crews working nights. And sometimes I end up staying in the office until 11, 12 o'clock because I feel like I need to be at work too because we have guys out there, right?
Well, and your guys will appreciate the fact that you are not just a do it. One of the
I
things
don't think they know that though. I don't think they know that's what I do. So when they call me and I'm still at the office, I don't think they know that. I do that for me. But
they know.
I just
that over time they know. If you're consistent with it, they definitely know. I mean, there's only so many times they can show up to the office to grab some material that they forgot to pick up, and you happen to be there. That you're
right. You're right.
One other
they
point.
Did something.
When you're managing stress, you're managing your state. That management, like Ed teaches, to have a trigger to pull you out of that state and back into a positive state, because you always want to remember, what am I trying to get out of this conversation? You know what I mean? If you're in a complicated conversation with somebody, what do you need out of it? And what do they want out of it? And if you can steer the conversation to where both people get what they want, maybe it's the GCs getting their job done and you compromise, say, look, well, I've got an installer, it's going to work the weekend or Saturday, but they won't work Sunday, but we'll get to this point, and then by Tuesday, we'll be done with that area. That's communication. You guys have talked about it the entire time, but not coming off as like you're trying to push them off or be a jerk. You're trying to help them through the situation and be a problem solver. That always comes off better as well.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think that's the difference between young Jose and older Jose.
Well,
didn't want it.
it's treating everything like a partnership, right? Because you, like we talked about before, you go in here and your partners, you're trying to, both of your guys' goal is the same. It's to get the project done. And in order to do that, you got to talk through it and make sure that things are set up in a sequence, especially since they don't know your sequence. You have to communicate that to them so that way they can understand, all right, I didn't think about it like that. Let's kind of change gears. And it's been like that on, a couple of these projects lately where the GC will give me a call and be like, hey, I got these guys coming in here. And I'm like, yeah, but we're supposed to be there that day. And they're like, well, can't you just do this one area? And it's like, no, man, I need this whole thing. We're self-leveling. I can't just do, small areas at a time. I need everything. And then they're like, all right, let me call them back. We'll figure this out. And it's the GC communicating to me and then me communicating back to them that their plan wasn't going to work out, but us coming together and putting something else together that ends up working out great, especially like when we're working nights. And it's like I would work 60 hours in 4 days rather than have the guys work Friday. And they're all about that. That way they also don't have to be there on that Friday.
So I want to add to what Daniel said too, because you just made me realize something. And it's that communication, they call and say, hey, I'm going to have these guys here too. And you're like, no, because this is the process. And some of it might just be that they're just not educated. They don't understand the process. So as you explain it to them, they hold that in and they lock that in and they start understanding more of what we have to do and what we have to go through. And that helps build a better relationship for the future, which in turn causes less stress. And if you were willing to work with them, they'll know that as long as you don't let them abuse it, I think that they'll always approach it. And then the next time they call, they're going to say, instead of saying, hey, I have these people coming over, they call and say, hey, here's the scenario. What can we do? How can we work together to make this work? Because these people also need to get in there, but they're also on a time crunch and availability. And
so it's like proper planning and communication to prevent future stress has been, everybody here has talked about that. But that's the bottom line. Like planning properly for your job, good communication about your processes and what you need prevents future stress. And then when you do get into stressful situations, I still want to go back to what Eduardo said. Remember, how can you make it a win-win? And that's similar to like keeping goals in your head. So
I do like that. I'm gonna lock
go
that
ahead,
one in.
Eduardo.
Thanks.
You're gonna have to jump in there.
Oh man, I'm too polite. I'm like a vampire. I have to be let in. I've got two
Nobody's gonna
things to talk
interrupt you,
about.
bro. You're wearing the best shirt on the podcast. Nobody's gonna interrupt you. You start talking, we'll shut up.
Okay, no, I mean, I wanted to bring up when you guys start talking about, having your team out in the field and you in the office, it's either mental capital or physical capital that you're getting paid to expand. Because this is my first time working in an office, and I don't know, at the end of the day, my brain's fried. So when I ride my bike home, it's like, rap music and podcasts, but it is capital. Like thinking and creating ideas and working with other people is exhausting, so that's pretty important. And then the other thing is like you got to steer the conversation when it comes to getting what you want. Like Paul said, if you're asking the right questions and and understanding that, and this is something I just learned, voice inflection was a big reason why me and my wife were miscommunicating because I thought she had a tone, but it's just I didn't understand how voice inflection worked. So now I'm like listening to her, and she's a lot nicer. So it's the same sentences, just said in a different way.
You know what's funny? You talk about voice inflection, and that's one thing that I have that works for me and against me is everyone says that I'm very soft spoken, right? Like people who I'm just me, oh, you're very soft spoken, you're very polite. But my family, they say I'm just an a-hole. Like my delivery is dry, but I'm just an a-hole. And I'm like, man, like everybody says, what am I, soft spoken or am I an a-hole? Like, so sorry, I didn't want to cuss, so I said it like the elementary way there, the PG way.
Well, so the truth, if there is a truth in that, is probably somewhere in between there.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I guess my facial expressions give it away. And that's what people who don't know me don't understand my facial expressions, but my family 100% they do. They have it's the eyebrows. I'm very, very expressive with the eyebrows there.
Eduardo, can you build a little bit of a scenario of a time when you've really been stressed out, and what was the source of that stress? Like,
Oh,
I like it. I think I know
that's a
this
good
one.
question. No, I was gonna tell Daniel he's looking
You're
healthy, so
listening.
he doesn't look stressed. But I mean, it's a long story, but pretty much last year I was pushing something that I didn't believe in anymore. I guess it was just my ego for doing floors for so long, but I wasn't happy about it, or passionate about it. So I started learning because I got mentorship. Mentorship is important when you realize like, oh crap, I'm doing this wrong. I should probably ask for help. And so the last 8 months, we've been pregnant. We're having a kid. I think I closed on my business. I don't know, but I sold everything. And I have a bicycle. I have 2 bicycles, and I am happier than ever. I'm cycling to work every day, but it's that stress that like gets me up and gets me to work and puts in the effort because it's scary. The reason I bring this up is I'm not sure who did the exact experiment, but they had a mouse in a little tunnel, and they would waft the smell of a cat behind it. And they had a little spring attached that would measure the weight of the pressure pushing forward. Well, when they tried that, the mouse pushed, but then they added some cheese on the other end. So not only was the mouse running from something, it was pushing towards something. So that's kind of a like oversimplification of stress. And like you got to run faster than that cat towards something that you want.
Mhm.
And that's how I'm using stress. Like I'm running and I'm going in a certain direction, and I can pull twice as hard as anybody, and I added discipline to that, and it's been working pretty well.
So the want for the final outcome has got to outweigh the dangers or the stress, so to speak, of that the outcome could potentially bring towards you.
Yeah, the
So it's
horizon.
just that's the journey, man. That's the journey, right? You gotta love the journey.
Yeah, but everyone's running from something. you know maybe I cut off an old lady in traffic, and I was like, man, I feel bad about that in my life. But it's this that multiplication, that leveraging of those stressors. The stress is good, but also wanting something on top of that. So you can't just be stressed out and hiding at home. You got to be outside on the run doing something.
Jorge says he thinks you're referring to Speedy Gonzalez.
That's
Hey,
him.
hey,
Well, it's
we were told
interesting
growing up that was a cousin.
because that's a common kind of I run quite a bit, and runners, like the community, which I'm not super involved with, but they say, in the back of your mind, you're either running towards something or running away from something.
Mm.
And it's unique that you're running, that both are occurring. Seems to me that when both are occurring, meaning just like your mouse example, you're running away from something and running towards something, that could be pretty powerful if you get into stressful situations and you understand what you're running from and running towards. It's like you can move twice as fast. You even said that. So is that kind of the idea of so like if you have fear, to add
There you go.
the positive to the thought process when you're managing your state, do you think like, what am I moving towards? Which is kind of similar to the goal thing. Like,
Yeah.
remember your goals, but you also have this thing you're running from. So when you are kind of fleeing stress, are you also thinking that like, I need something positive in my horizon to be running towards, or is that even cognizant? Yeah, you are, Eduardo.
Okay. So I wanted to bring that up. It's like when you have nothing to lose, that is the best time to just go for it because you've got nothing. Like, what are they going to take from you? Like, you got
Yeah.
nothing. So just that is when rich men are made, when they have nothing to lose. And rich men stay rich by preserving what they made when they made it. But that's how I feel like you have to lower your standard of living, so and detach yourself from these things that we've been raised through American, not to be political, but through the American education system to be, manufacturing people standing in a line buy credit, get in debt, get married, buy college. And so, avoiding that is seen, as a stigma, but all these people I know right here are incredibly intelligent and driven and disciplined. So, I think it's a little bit of everything.
I
And
think
you're
it's,
making me think now too.
yeah,
I'm going to ponder this mouse and this cat thing, because the way you said it and what Paul just added to it just made me I just blew my own mind in the thought process. Is the fear of the cat, is that pushing you harder than the want or need of the cheese? Like,
Yeah.
like I
well,
guess
you could go pretty deep on this. They say in psychology, the fear response you'll always do more out of fear than you will out of desire. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants like to have nice things and do these things. And, most people, I should say, but if they got a bison chasing them, they'll get up off their ass and go do something. I mean, like, it's always your belief system, and that can go super deep. But what I think's kind of really interesting to this is, and Daniel, I'd love to like hear your idea behind this, but if Eduardo just, talking about managing stress from a lifestyle level, he's talking about like lower your stress level overall by not obsessing over things, simplifying your life and living within your means. And then you don't have to, skip out on dinner one night because you got a car payment, or, you can't buy your wife or girlfriend something nice because you got the mortgage or the rent or the whatever. What's your guys' thought on like overall lifestyle management, living beneath your means, whatever that is? I mean, that's an individualized comment, but
yeah,
what do you think of that approach?
It is, but it isn't at the same time, because we've touched on this in previous podcasts too, where we say, we pay ourselves a salary, and the business income is the business income, and our income is our income, and that's how we kind of treat it. And that's because without separating the two, we know far too many people that live above their means, because as soon as that money hits that bank account, it's my money, and got all this money to go to the casino this weekend, but then next weekend can't pay my guys. Sorry, guys. So it's that's like he said, you don't want to get too political, but it's kind of America in a nutshell. It's you got to have that motivation to want to actually do something. So you put it in terms of like working out. A lot of people say, well, I can't work out because this is wrong or this is wrong. But I've been there. I just fell off a ladder earlier and hurt my knee. So there goes my gym, but I could still go to the gym and work on my upper body, right? It's you gotta look at things in a different perspective. It's not I can't do this. It's, well, now I just gotta to switch my thinking on things and then figure out something else that I can do.
Yeah, do you guys think that stress is compounding?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
if you have
100%.
lifestyle stress and then you get into a situation on a project or out, a work stress, pretty reasonable to say that if you've managed the other stressors in your life, financial stress is one of the greatest and hardest on people. If you've managed that correctly, do you believe you're able to deal with situational stress better?
I think that's hit or miss. I think that's going to be individualized, right? Like, some people just don't care about financial stress because they don't care. They just like let it go, and it doesn't bother them to not
I'd like to
get things done.
meet some of those guys. I guess
Or they just, I know some of those people, and I'll tell you that, being on the receiving side of them not caring about their commitments it's not fun because then that puts stress on me. But there's other ways of dealing with that. But it, as far as the compounding, like the older you get, I think the easier it is to handle and to separate, to find separation. When I was younger, the stresses of at home and personal life were definitely brought to work with me. And then you would kind of hold that, and there would be triggers all day that would trigger that feeling, and that stress would be brought to the surface. And you might be a little more touchy than normal with other things with people, and a little more short. But as you get older, you're able to, I don't want to say suppress it, but you're able to separate it, right? Like you worry about it, but like me and you work together tomorrow, Paul, and I'm stressed about something at home. And I choose not to talk about it. I'm able to separate that, and we'll have a good day at work still, right? But then on my downtime, on my breaks, I'm going to be thinking about what I have to deal with later, so that way I'm mentally preparing myself for what's to come at home, or with life in general. And I guess shame on me if I'm not willing to share that with close friends and try to find some kind of outlet. And I know that's hard for some, still hard for me, but younger me would definitely hold on to that, and I would snap on people and be upset, and it would definitely compound. And then someone like Daniel would be like, "Hey, dude, like, what's up, dude? Like, what's wrong?" I was gonna say something now. I should have said, "What's wrong with you today? Like, hey, you're just like extra today. Like, what's wrong?" And that's usually all it takes for someone to say, "This is what's going on," and then they might have a solution, or they might be able to pull you out of that dark hole that you're in right now, and bring you back, and then you just go, ah, you
So
feel a little bit better.
it sounds like it does compound to some extent. In my life, I would say yes. If I'm as good as I feel like I've gotten at state management, um, there, I mean, when I was young with my ego, and I had an explosive anger, like explosive. It was unmanageable. I'm really embarrassed about it as an older man now. I think two things happen as you get older. You get a little more wiser, and your ego starts to die a little bit. Your ego starts to take a second seat to your ambitions and your love for other people. That gets a little probably deeper than this conversation, but truth
It's a
is
great way to
that
put it.
at the end of the day, ego starts to take a back seat to other things that become more important. And yeah.
I think the older we get, the easier it is to empathize with other people. So it makes it a lot easier to get the attitude out of the way, because it's not like, it's all me. This is what I need all the time. It's everyone has things going on in their life, and then you have to realize that you're not the only one that's going through some stuff. So it's like, what's going on with you at the same time? Everyone needs someone to talk to.
Well, yeah, giving a shit about other people will help you as well. Like pouring into other people a little bit, helping other people get through some tough stuff. All of a sudden, you're like, I ain't got it that bad.
You could be that guy.
And we touched on Simon Sinek a while back, a few episodes, and he says something that really resonates too. It's you go to the library and they have all these self-help books, but they don't have a section that's help other people.
Good point. For the most part, anyway. There's probably a few scattered through there, but yeah. What do you think, Eduardo?
So I'm gonna start backwards because he just mentioned the self-help, and it's true. Like you're not gonna change somebody who doesn't want to change. When it comes to stress, to me, I see it as pain. The only way to grow is through pain. And so now it makes sense. Like, the concept of like, I can't give these people everything they need because it's not going to help them grow up as people. And that's part of growing up. Like now that you all have kids, I think you all have kids. Like you understand what
Yeah.
it's like to love somebody else unconditionally. Cause like, man, it feels good when my little girl's like, whoa, shoot, you're back home. I was like, yeah, like that's a good feeling. So, growing up is learning to love others more than yourself. And, that's part of the process.
Yeah, I know that
I
it
like
may
that.
seem like, stress, the topic is this may not apply. No, this is exactly what like manages your overall stress level that leads to the health complications you talked about earlier. It's hard to manage situational stress, I guess, was my kind of driving point here, when everything else in your life is chaotic and stressful. So work on the things you have control over so that when situational stress comes in that you a lot of times don't have control over, whether it's car accident or, you get something happens that's not really great, but you got to deal with it. You're more equipped to deal with it if you're the rest of your life is not just some stressful mess. And that's
Yes.
financial, relationships, business, the whole works.
Well,
So
besides learning how to deal with it internally, what does everybody do outside of internalizing and expressing emotions and asking for help or trying to help others? Like, I used to play ball quite a bit, right? That was my stress reliever, right? And then, I mean, it brought stress too, but that was my outlet, right? That was my hobby. Like, what hobbies? For me, the hobbies outside of work and outside of your at home life help relieve some of that. There's an old comedian who says that I don't remember who it was, but this is a joke from a very long time ago. It's like, oh, when I'm stressed out, I bought a dog so that when I'm stressed out, I just come home and kick my dog. And that
yeah,
joke is stuck with me for a lot of years, and I don't think anybody talks like that anymore. But um, like working on the yard, like sports, watching my kids play sports, that's a great stress reliever. But I get stressed while I'm doing it because I know that the potential
You
to
get
do
stressed or you
better
get
is
anxious.
anxious. Yes, there you go. But anxiety is a form of stress as well. Puts stress on you. But those are
well,
something outside of
you
that.
got your positive stressors and your negative stressors, right?
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier, whether you're anxious to get to the cheese or fearful to get away from the cat.
Yeah.
You have positive and negative. I mean, so it can be a positive thing that is like a stressful thing. Like good things can be stressful. Doesn't mean that they're all negative and bad. It's just, overall, um, the ones that bother us the most are obviously the negative sourced stressors.
100%.
Jocelyn is actually listening, and she
Oh,
said
no.
she's trying to set herself
You're
up
mic'd up,
for
bro. You're
for
mic'd up.
everything with nutrition and putting time in for hobbies. Sometimes you'll find you can help other people when doing those things, and makes yourself feel good. So by actually relieving your own stress, you can relieve other people's stress as well. And I
I tell
think,
you what.
like with my wife, I can see that because she goes to Fit Body Boot Camp at 5 a.m. and she's been going for years, and they got like this whole thing going. And there's people that come up to us, we'll go out to dinner somewhere and they'll be like, oh, that's and Tanya, I know you from Fit Body. And she's like, I've never met that person before in my life, but they'll tell her like your motivation, like just seeing you in there every day and her posts, it's like she's motivating other people without even knowing it. And that's just what she uses to relieve her stress.
That's interesting. Well, that's a question you posed, Jose. So what do you do outside working out? I personally, fasting helps me a lot. Something about me all not eating and my brain dealing with that keeps
Yeah.
my stress level down a little bit. And I enjoy running. So a lot of times I'm able to deal with that additional stress through physical stress.
Yeah. No, I think if I chime in real quick, I think I'm not sure if Jocko Willink says it, but he says slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Like you have
Yes.
to slow down and think about it. And the kind of what I wanted to head toward was that conscientiousness of knowing like everybody here could be anxious, like our heart's beating. We don't know. I can't feel that. But you know, you can ask that. And the last thing I want to talk about is community. You need to find your people. Like there's a group for
Yeah.
everything you can think of out there. And when you hang out with them, you feel like, wow, the room is shiny. These people get me, you know? So finding community on top of whether you find it at the gym or where you find it at, you know, in a meeting hall, like you just got to find a community to hang out with.
Yeah, finding community is a great point, as well as what you said earlier. I mean, I have mentors, I have some people that I can rely on to just kind of unload on. Um, so I think that, you know, sometimes that's your wife. Make sure you know how to do that one, right, gentlemen? But you know, having somebody that has your back and really is a cheerleader of you, that's what I've found in like this journey I've been on for 15 years of personal development and improving myself is, you know, getting around people that are your cheerleader and are not in the background saying, oh, he's, you know, just wants this, or, you know, talking bad or something, that truly celebrates your wins. And that a lot of time is a community that you join. And, you know, if you're in flooring,
We're a
it's one of the
community.
best communities you can be a part of right here. So
It is. It is. And you wouldn't know that if you don't start going somewhere and putting yourself in a position to be recognized, and not recognition for what you feel is a success or what others view as success, just recognized as an individual, period. Just a name, shake someone's hand, meet someone new. You never know. You might meet someone that lives in Kansas that you get along with really well, and every time you talk, it's like you never missed a beat, right?
yeah. Yeah, I think it's, you know, a lot of times we don't think we have much to give as individuals, and you do. You have more than you know. Sharing your story or talking to somebody, just saying some kind stuff to, I don't care if it's a stranger or your wife, can make someone else's day. And you know, we talk about going to conventions and going to different um, you know, flooring shows or shows in general. That's kind of part of it. Like putting yourself out there a little bit, and you do have a lot more to give than you probably give yourself credit for. I'm still guilty of that sometimes. Like you have some gifts that other people can really benefit from if you'll put yourself out there a little bit. I think that's what you were kind of alluding to there, Jose. And you know, I got to meet Eduardo at a show. I've met you guys at shows. I mean, like going to and being part of the installation community that we're all passionate about and also want to improve. We know the faults. We've talked about them on, we're in episode what, 46? Is that right? 42?
Mhm.
46.
46 weeks straight we've
Wow,
had this
that's good.
podcast, right?
Straight.
Straight.
Sure.
There was a couple that we missed.
Some emergencies and some like one technical difficulty week, but yeah,
For the most part.
yeah.
But yeah, just being part of a community that will celebrate your wins, and staying away from the toxic stuff that you see the good and bad on social media, specifically when you get into the flooring groups, and you'll see like the guys that are going to attack or say something negative or, you know, whatever. Like they're celebrating people's downfall as opposed to celebrating their wins. And so find people in your life that are going to celebrate your wins and be happy for you and truly be like cheering you on to do greater things and taking the next step to improve yourself.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like
the
that.
first time like we actually met Eduardo was at Surfaces, and he actually, I think he like Facebook messaged me or something. He's like, I have no idea where I am. I'm supposed to be over here. I was like, bro, I will come find you. Ended up finding him and his
It
his
did.
wife, and like led him to where he was supposed to be, and then brought her back to the pool because we were hanging out at, having a pool day.
First time I met Eduardo was in
FCICA.
FCICA. That's right. We were in Tennessee, and the first conversation I was supposed to have, like I started talking, I was like, "Hey, yeah, your brother Daniel preferred flag," and then Daniel told me, "When you meet Eduardo, tell him that I hate him." I was like, "For what?" He's like, because he won the scholarship. I was supposed to win that
Oh,
sim program.
yeah. I was like, there's more of them though.
Yeah,
Keep
I don't
going.
think I ever relayed that message. I just
The,
thought
the
it was
messed
pretty
up
No, you
thing
funny.
is
did. I remember that.
you won it, right? And then the next year he won it.
Yeah.
Boo boo.
You got
I
skipped
mean,
over twice.
I skipped over twice. And then, you know what? Hopefully CJ's listening, because I did. They were emailing about, more classes that are coming up, and I was like, I don't have time right now. Plus, I'm banking on winning that scholarship.
Well,
it's coming out.
we're nearing our end. I wanted to point out a few kind of trends in our conversation. Communication, like bottling stuff up. So communicate proactive communication can help with stress, keeping it lower. Communication on expectations, right? Like if you can't be there at 7, tell them between 7 and 7:30 so you got some cushion to manage that expectation. That's a simple version of it. But like, so managing those expectations and communication, and then, keeping top of mind what the task at hand is. Let's say that it's kind of the goals, it's the win-win piece. It's all that, like, what's the task at hand, and staying focused on that. What other kind of trends you guys recognized in this conversation? Any
Um,
others?
pretty
Yeah.
much what you just said there. I just have to agree with that. I mean, if you ask me to repeat it, I'm going to say it in a really, really long version. And I know we don't have that time. But I will add this to it though. So based on the conversation, I will say that it sounds like fear is the leading cause of success, but with the success, no matter what the success is in your mind, just be prepared for a little bit of stress and figure out a way to deal with it. So fear, leading cause of success. With success, you're going to have stress.
Growth through pain, I think Eduardo said, which is the very basic. I mean, if you work out, you can't expect not to be sore. Like you're
Yeah.
going to have pain, but that's creating the success you want.
Mhm.
And then, realize that stress is compounding, right? Like the more stressed you are out about one thing, the more you're going to be stressed out about everything. So find that root cause and focus on one thing at a time, so that way you can start managing stuff. And I think a big part of that, especially for me, was talking to someone about what I was stressed about. And even, my wife and I, she told me before, she was like, "You don't tell me anything." And it's like, you know what, I have been pretty closed off, and I'm not sharing it because it's like, to me, just winning a project was just winning a project. But it's like sometimes you got to celebrate those small wins and let people know, like, we got this one.
Yeah,
And
that's a
just
good
start
addition.
communicating that way.
Celebrating the wins.
Yep. Is Eduardo
Anything to
still here?
close?
Yeah.
Anything to close out here, Eduardo? I see you taking notes and.
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah. That what I was gonna bring up is the only time you can be brave is when you're scared. So like the fact that so many people go through their life in fear and don't do anything to change about it. It's a lot,
Yeah.
the frog in the water that's compounding. You should realize you're boiling at some point and just jump for it and go for it. Like I mentioned earlier in the station, like if you got nothing to lose, then you got nothing to lose. So go for it.
Yeah.
Everybody's scared. Everybody's scared.
Everybody's
There you
scared.
go. That's that new book you got to write. Everybody's scared.
Everybody's scared.
Just like instead of
Like-
everybody poops, everybody's scared.
Well, I do like
Yeah.
the fact that, you know, this was on, if you guys ever seen, I'll close out, try to make this quick so I don't like waste all the time, but have you seen Evan Almighty? It's the sequel to Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
So at one point, Morgan Freeman, who's playing God in that movie, is sitting with Evan's wife, and he's been told to build this ark, and he says something to the extent that, do you think when you pray to God for strength or for something that he just gives that to you, or do you think he gives you a situation to exercise and get it better? And so a lot of times what you perceive as bad is just a way for you to improve. And
Yes.
that's that progress through stress. You know, a lot of times, whether you're God fearing or not, these situations come up. And I thought it was just interesting how that was put. Like, do you think God like gives you strength, or gives you a situation where you can exercise your strength and make it stronger?
Yep. That's where the failure thing comes in, right? Like you can't
Yeah.
learn without failing.
Yeah, and we've said this before, like, you know, a rocket, our most sophisticated laser guided rockets are off course 90% of the time, because the failure is what makes them, sends the feedback to make it correct, and it's always correcting until it hits its target. So that's how
like
we
that.
can be as
Like,
humans. Go ahead,
last
RR.
thing from So I work at the Business Assistant Center here in Fort Worth. It's like funded by the city, but the score office is right here. So like all the like SBA stuff is like I play with their books right there looking at them. But on the board it says fail is the first attempt in learning. So that really helped me a lot, because if you're trying, you're gonna fail. Everybody's gonna fail. You just try again a different way, you know. So.
Yeah, my first heat welded seam wasn't very good either. Well, guys,
That's
thanks
funny.
for the awesome conversation. We have ended or come to the end of our podcast here. So I want to appreciate Eduardo for, recognize him for coming on and dropping some stoic knowledge on us. Thank you, sir. That was awesome. And Daniel, Jose, thank you as always. You're a staple. I truly appreciate you guys. We all do. I know the community really enjoys consuming some of this content. So if you're on here, happen to be on YouTube or one of the social medias, please drop a like, watch the videos, drop a comment, subscribe.
Friend request, everything.
Yeah, do it
Yeah.
all. Wherever you're consuming, let us know what you're thinking. It helps us drive further conversation and future conversations to what the community and what the audience is interested in. So,
And if they got something that they need to talk about, let us know. Bring them on, start talking.
yeah. It's kind of a community-oriented podcast. So thank you guys again. Eduardo, sir, have a great day. You guys too.
Thank you.
And we will catch you next week.
Sounds
Yes, sir.
good.
Have a good one.
Take it
Thanks,
easy.
All
everybody.
right. Thanks, guys.